Welcome back to Elderly Smiles. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss out on future conversations. Today, we're wading into a topic that's often whispered about, but rarely discussed openly. Changes in vaginal health after 60. It might feel a bit personal, but trust me, it's a conversation worth having. The more we talk about it, the less power the stigma holds. I'm so glad to have our expert here with us today, someone who's dedicated to helping women navigate this stage of life with confidence and grace.
Thanks for having me. You're absolutely right. It's time to shed the embarrassment and empower women with knowledge and choices.
Okay, so let's dive in. I've heard so many women say things like, oh, it's just something you have to deal with as you get older when it comes to vaginal health. Is that really true? Is this just an inevitable part of aging that we have to accept?
Not at all. That's a misconception we need to clear up right away. While it's true that our bodies change as we age and estrogen levels naturally decline during menopause, that doesn't mean we're destined for discomfort or a decline in our intimate lives. Think of it this way. Just like we pay attention to our skin as we age, using moisturizers and protecting it from the sun, our intimate area needs attention and care too. And thankfully, we have a whole spectrum of options from ancient wisdom to modern science to help us feel our best.
That's a great analogy. I never thought about it that way. So what's actually happening on a physical level that causes these changes after 60?
The key player here is estrogen, as you mentioned. As estrogen levels decrease, the vaginal walls can become thinner, drier, and less elastic. This is often referred to as vaginal atrophy. And while it's incredibly common, it's important to remember it's not something you simply have to put up with.
That makes sense. But beyond the physical discomfort, what about the emotional impact of these changes? It seems like this could really affect a woman's sense of self and even her relationships.
You're spot on. The emotional side of this is huge. When you're dealing with dryness, itching, or pain during intimacy, it can be incredibly frustrating and can lead to feelings of self-consciousness, embarrassment, and even anxiety. This can affect your relationships, your body image, and your overall confidence.
So it's not just about managing symptoms, it's about reclaiming a sense of well-being and feeling good in your own skin at any age.
Exactly. That's why I believe that understanding these changes is the first step towards empowerment. Once you know what's happening and why, you can start exploring the many options available and take control of your experience.
Okay, I'm ready to ditch the hush-hush and dive into solutions. You mentioned we have a blend of ancient wisdom and modern science to draw on. Tell me more about that.
I love that you brought that up. It's fascinating how different cultures have approached women's health throughout history. Ancient traditions like Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine placed a high value on intimate health. They didn't shy away from it at all. In fact, they saw it as integral to overall vitality and longevity.
So they were talking about this openly. That's so interesting. What were some of their approaches?
They used a wide range of natural remedies, from specific massage techniques with herbal oils to targeted exercises for strengthening the pelvic floor. And what's remarkable is that modern science is now validating many of these ancient practices. It's like we're rediscovering this incredible wisdom and realizing how powerful it can be.
It's like coming full circle. Speaking of ancient practices, I know Kegel exercises are often mentioned for pelvic floor health. Are those still relevant for women after 60?
Absolutely. Kegels aren't just for new moms. They're beneficial for women of all ages.
Can you remind us what they are and how they actually help?
Sure. Kegel exercises, or pelvic floor exercises, involve contracting and relaxing the muscles that support your bladder, uterus, and rectum. It's basically a workout for your pelvic floor, and the benefits are numerous. They improve blood flow to the vaginal area, which is essential for healthy tissue. They can strengthen the muscles, which helps with bladder control, and can even enhance pleasure during intimacy.
Wait, pleasure too. Tell me more about that. It seems like we often focus on the problems and challenges, but it's exciting to hear that there are ways to enhance our experiences as well.
Exactly. And it makes sense when you think about it. By strengthening those pelvic floor muscles, you're increasing sensitivity and potentially improving your ability to experience pleasurable sensations.
That's definitely something to get excited about. But what about beyond exercises? You mentioned natural oils earlier. Can you elaborate on that? What kind of oils are we talking about and how do they help?
Natural oils can be wonderfully soothing and nourishing for the delicate skin in the vaginal area. Think rosehip oil, sesame oil, or even good old coconut oil. These oils can help with dryness, improve elasticity, and just feel really good.
It's like a mini spa treatment for that area.
You got it. And it can be a really lovely act of self-care. In fact, self-care is a key concept here. It's about nurturing your body and listening to its needs. And speaking of self-care, let's not forget about the role of diet.
Oh, right. I've heard that certain foods can help. but I'm always a bit skeptical. Is there any truth to that?
There's definitely some truth to it. Phytoestrogens, which are compounds found in certain plants, can actually mimic the effects of estrogen in the body.
Really? So food can actually make a difference. What are some examples of foods that contain these phytoestrogens?
You can find them in foods like flax seeds, soybeans, chickpeas, and lentils. Incorporating these into your diet can be a natural way to support hormonal balance and potentially reduce the discomfort of vaginal dryness.
This is fascinating. I'm starting to see how all these different pieces fit together. Exercise, natural oils, diet. It's a holistic approach to well-being. Is there anything else we should be thinking about when it comes to caring for our intimate health after 60?
Hydration is key, both internally and externally.
What do you mean by that?
First, make sure you're drinking plenty of water throughout the day to stay hydrated from the inside out. And secondly, consider using a good moisturizer or lubricant specifically designed for the vaginal area.
Are there any specific types of moisturizers or lubricants you recommend?
Hyaluronic acid is fantastic. It attracts and holds moisture, so it's incredibly hydrating. Coconut oil, again, is a great option. It's natural, multi-purpose, and generally well tolerated. And when it comes to washing, Faith, keep it gentle. Avoid harsh soaps and fragrances that can disrupt the delicate pH balance down there.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got a lot of great natural approaches in our toolkit, but what about those times when lifestyle changes aren't enough? Are there other options available if things are feeling more serious?
Absolutely. It's important to remember that you don't have to suffer in silence. If you're experiencing persistent discomfort, pain, or other concerns, talk to your doctor. There are modern medical options available like laser treatments that can provide significant relief and improve vaginal health.
So even if things feel challenging, there's still hope and options to explore.
Exactly. And that's really the key message I want to convey. It's about finding what works for you. Experiment, talk to your doctor, advocate for yourself. You have choices.
I love that. It's empowering. Taking charge of your health at any age is so important. And it sounds like there's a lot we can do to feel good in our bodies and embrace this stage of life.
Absolutely. And remember, you're not alone. Sharing your experiences with trusted friends, family, or support groups can help break down the stigma and create a sense of community.
This has been so insightful. It feels like we've covered so much ground and really challenged some common misconceptions about aging and intimate health.
I agree. And hopefully this has given our listeners a good starting point for their own journey of self-discovery and empowerment.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that we have more control than we think. From Kegels to coconut oil, there's so much we can do to feel good in our bodies at any age.
Couldn't agree more. It's about reclaiming that sense of agency and knowing you have options.
Okay, so let's talk about those options a bit more. You mentioned laser treatments. What exactly are those and who might they be right for?
Laser treatments are a relatively new option for vaginal rejuvenation. They use focused laser energy to stimulate collagen production in the vaginal walls.
So it's kind of like giving the area a little boost from the inside out.
Exactly. And this can help thicken the tissue, improve elasticity, and increase natural lubrication.
That sounds amazing. Who would be a good candidate for this type of treatment?
It can be a game changer for women experiencing more severe dryness, discomfort, or even pain during intercourse. But of course, it's essential to talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you and understand the potential risks and benefits.
Good point. It's always best to have an open and honest conversation with your healthcare provider. Now, I know we've been focusing a lot on the physical side of things, but I want to circle back to the emotional aspect. It's so important to acknowledge that these changes can profoundly impact a woman's sense of self.
Absolutely. The vagina is often seen as a symbol of femininity and sexuality. So when it starts to change, it can feel like a loss of identity for some women.
Right. And then there's the societal pressure to stay youthful and desirable.
Yeah.
It can all feel very overwhelming.
It definitely can. That's why having these conversations and normalizing these changes is crucial. The more we talk about it, the less shame and secrecy there will be.
So what advice would you give to a woman who's feeling down about these changes and maybe even a little lost?
First and foremost, know that you're not alone. Millions of women go through this. Secondly, be kind to yourself. Your body is going through a transition, and it's okay to feel a range of emotions. And third, focus on the things you can control. Explore the solutions we've talked about, find what works for you, and celebrate the fact that you're taking care of yourself.
Beautifully said. It's all about shifting our perspective and seeing this as a journey of self-discovery, not a decline.
Exactly. Aging isn't a failure. It's a privilege. It's an opportunity to embrace a new chapter in life and redefine what it means to be a woman.
That's such a powerful message. I think sometimes we get so caught up in societal expectations that we forget to celebrate the wisdom and strength that come with age.
It's true. Our culture often equates youth with beauty and value, but true beauty comes from within. It's about feeling comfortable and confident in your own skin, no matter your age.
Okay, so we've talked about the physical changes, the emotional impact, and the various solutions available. But I think there's one piece of the puzzle we haven't fully addressed. Intimacy. How can couples navigate these changes together and maintain a healthy and satisfying sex life?
That's a great question, and it's something I get asked a lot. Communication is key. It's important to talk openly and honestly with your partner about what you're experiencing both physically and emotionally.
I imagine that can be hard for some couples.
It can be, but it's so important. Create a safe space where you can both share your feelings and concerns without judgment. And remember, intimacy is a journey, not a destination. It's about exploring together and finding what works for both of you.
That's so true. And it might require some adjustments and experimentation along the way.
Yeah.
So what about the physical side of things? Any tips for making intimacy more comfortable and enjoyable when you're facing these challenges?
Absolutely. First and foremost, don't be afraid to use lubricant. It can make a world of difference in terms of reducing friction and discomfort.
That's a simple but important tip. What else?
Experiment with different positions. Some might be more comfortable than others, especially if you're experiencing any pain or tightness. Take your time, focus on foreplay, and communicate with each other throughout the experience. It's about finding what feels good for both of you.
This is all great advice. It's so important to remember that intimacy doesn't have to end just because we're getting older. It might look and feel different, but it can still be a beautiful and fulfilling part of life.
Exactly. And in fact, many couples find that their intimacy deepens as they age. They develop a stronger emotional connection, they learn to communicate more effectively, and they appreciate each other on a deeper level. It becomes less about performance and more about connection and shared pleasure.
That's really inspiring. It's about shifting our focus from what we might have lost to what we can gain and appreciate in this new chapter.
Absolutely. And remember, intimacy isn't just about intercourse. It's about touch, affection, and feeling close to your partner. There are so many ways to express love and connection, both physically and emotionally.
So it's about expanding our definition of intimacy and finding new ways to connect with our partners.
Yes. And sometimes that might even mean seeking professional help. If you're struggling to navigate these changes on your own, a therapist who specializes in sexual health can provide guidance and support.
That's a great point. There's no shame in asking for help, whether it's from your doctor, a therapist, or even a trusted friend. We all need support sometimes, especially when facing challenging transitions.
I couldn't agree more. It's a sign of strength and self-awareness to reach out for support when you need it.
This has been such an enlightening conversation. I feel like we've covered so much ground and really debunked a lot of myths surrounding aging and intimacy. It's been both informative and empowering.
I agree. And I hope our listeners are feeling empowered and hopeful as well. It's about taking charge of our health, embracing our bodies, and celebrating this stage of life.
I love that. It's not about turning back the clock. It's about making the most of the time we have and enjoying the journey with all its twists and turns. We've talked a lot about the importance of self-care, but sometimes it's hard to know where to even begin. Do you have any advice on how women can start incorporating more self-care into their lives, especially when it comes to their intimate health?
That's a great question. I think starting small is key. Don't try to overhaul your entire routine overnight. Instead, pick one or two things you can realistically incorporate into your daily life.
Like what? Do you have any specific examples?
Absolutely. For some women, it might be as simple as setting aside 5 minutes each day to do Kegel exercises. For others, it might be trying out a new natural oil or adding more phytoestrogen-rich foods to their diet. It could even be as simple as scheduling that doctor's appointment you've been putting off.
It's about taking those small steps and making them a consistent part of your routine.
Exactly. And remember, self-care is not selfish. It's about prioritizing your well-being so you can show up as your best self in all areas of your life.
I love that. And it's not just about physical health. It's about mental and emotional well-being as well.
Absolutely. Taking care of your mental health is just as important as taking care of your physical health. Make time for activities that bring you joy, connect with loved ones, and don't be afraid to seek professional help if you need it.
These are all great reminders. So if someone is listening and thinking, okay, I'm ready to prioritize my intimate health, where do they even begin? What would be your advice to them?
I would say, first and foremost, tune in to your body and listen to what it's telling you. What are your specific needs and concerns? Once you have a better understanding of what you're experiencing, you can start exploring the various options we've talked about today.
So it's about personalized self-care. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. What works for one woman might not work for another. It's about experimenting, being patient with yourself, and finding what feels right for you.
And don't be afraid to reach out for support. Whether it's your doctor, a therapist, a friend, or a support group, there are people who can help you navigate this journey.
Absolutely. You don't have to do this alone.
This has been such an inspiring conversation. I feel like we've covered so much ground and really reframed the conversation around aging and intimacy.
I agree. And I hope our listeners are feeling empowered and hopeful as well. It's about taking charge of our health, embracing our bodies, and celebrating this stage of life.
It's about challenging those outdated narratives and creating new ones that celebrate the wisdom, strength, and beauty of aging. And speaking of challenging narratives, I think it's important to acknowledge that the conversation around vaginal rejuvenation can be a bit controversial. Some people might argue that it's all driven by societal pressure to maintain a useful appearance and that it perpetuates unrealistic beauty standards. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a really important point, and it's a valid concern. I think it's crucial to approach this conversation with a critical lens and be mindful of the messages we're internalizing.
So how do we find that balance between embracing self-care and feeling empowered in our bodies without buying into those unrealistic expectations?
I think it starts with being honest with ourselves about our motivations. Why are we pursuing certain treatments or making certain choices? Is it truly for our own well-being and pleasure, or are we feeling pressured to conform to external standards?
So it's about checking in with our intentions and making sure we're acting from a place of self-love and acceptance rather than fear or insecurity.
Exactly. And it's also about recognizing that beauty comes in all ages and forms. Our worth as women isn't tied to our physical appearance or our ability to conform to societal ideals.
I love that. It's about redefining beauty and embracing the unique beauty that comes with every stage of life.
Absolutely. And remember, aging is a natural and beautiful process. It's a privilege to grow older and experience all the wisdom, strength, and resilience that comes with it.
I think that's a powerful message to leave our listeners with. It's not about fighting against time. It's about embracing the journey and finding joy in every chapter.
So true.
It's not about erasing the signs of aging, but about celebrating the journey and finding new ways to feel vibrant and connected to ourselves and our partners.
Beautifully said. It's about living fully in each moment and appreciating the wisdom and experiences that each year brings.
I couldn't agree more. This conversation has been incredibly eye-opening and honestly quite inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and insights with us today.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, knowledge is power. The more we understand our bodies and the changes we go through, the more empowered we are to make informed choices that support our well-being.
Absolutely. And to all our listeners out there, we hope this conversation about vaginal health after 60 has left you feeling informed, empowered, and hopeful. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's a whole community of women out there navigating similar experiences, and there's so much support available. Now, before we sign off, I want to leave you with a little something to ponder. We've talked extensively about the things we can do to support our intimate health. But what about the things we should avoid? Are there any habits or products that could actually be harmful to our vaginal health as we age? That's something to consider, and maybe even research a bit on your own. And of course, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an episode of Elderly Smiles. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep those smiles beaming.